Miraculous, a child's divine encounter with Jesus reveals shocking transformation for faith. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, a young boy named Eli resided in a humble village near the shores of the Sea of Galilee. His family made their living from the tranquil waters, casting nets to provide for their community. Guided by the wisdom of the elders and steeped in the teachings of the Torah, Eli often found himself captivated by tales of God's miracles. His heart, tender and courageous, yearned for a divine encounter, with the wild waves echoing his unspoken desires. One day, Eli's mother prepared a simple meal, 5 barley loaves and 2 small fish. Little did she know that this meager provision would soon become a vessel of God's grace. As the sun blazed above, news spread rapidly. Jesus of Nazareth was teaching not far from their village, drawing a multitude with his words of love and his gifts of healing. Eli's excitement bubbled as he clutched his lunch, the distant crowd beckoning him like the gentle tide. As he hurried toward the gathering, the air swelled with anticipation. Eli's heart raced with the hope of what he might witness. He arrived at the crowded scene, peering through the sea of legs where the vibrant voices of adults mingled with the eager murmurs of children. Above all, he sought the face of Jesus, whose words flowed like the refreshing waters of the sea. But as the sun began to descend, a weight of worry settled over the assembled crowd. The disciples, assessing the need, spoke in hushed tones, their brows furrowed as they faced thousands who had come to hear the teacher. Eli, standing at the fringes, sensed their anxiety and felt the gentle tug of compassion within him. Suddenly, a spark ignited in Eli's tender heart, pushing him forward through the throng. He clutched his meal tightly, and with innocent determination, he called out, "I have this." He raised his offering high, the simple loaves and fish now seeming both mundane and miraculous. The disciples glanced down, puzzled but intrigued by the small boy in their midst. Jesus, perceiving Eli's act of faith, leaned towards him with a smile that radiated warmth. "Bring it to me," he said gently, and in that moment, Eli felt more alive than ever, as if the very essence of hope pulsated through him. With trembling hands, he offered his humble gift to the Messiah. Instantly, the atmosphere thickened with expectancy, a holy hush enveloped the crowd, like the calm before a storm. Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select all notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As Eli stood in the midst of the multitude, Jesus lifted the loaves toward heaven, offering thanks to his Father. Then, he broke the loaves, distributing them to the disciples. With each piece given, the miraculous unfolded, the loaves multiplied with divine abundance. Laughter and shouts of joy rippled through the crowd as fish flowed into eager hands. Eli watched, wide-eyed, as his small offering transformed into a feast for thousands, baskets overflowing with the remnants of divine provision. His heart swelled with awe, realizing that faith combined with a simple offering could yield unimaginable blessings. A wave of realization washed over Eli. He had witnessed the profound intimacy of faith and the beauty of surrendering what little one possesses. With every joyful expression around him, he felt a stirring within. A divine adventure had begun, one that would lead him ever closer to the heart of God and reveal mysteries beyond his wildest dreams. Eli knew this was just the beginning of the extraordinary journey that awaited him through the grace of the one who fed the multitude. As the multitude feasted, voices of praise resounded across the hills, echoing the hearts touched by the miracle. Eli stood in the fading light, his spirit twinkling with the wonder of divine presence. The air crackled with excitement, and stories of the day's events began to weave an intricate tapestry of faith. Whispers of joy and astonishment danced through the crowd, for they had seen the impossible made possible. "Truly, this is the prophet who is to come into the world," exclaimed a man, his eyes brimming with tears of gratitude. Others were swept up in the fervor, proclaiming, "Aye. Never have we seen such a work." Their astonishment was palpable, and Eli felt the vibrations of their faith pulse through his own heart. In that moment, Jesus gathered his disciples and spoke, his voice firm yet tender, "Gather the fragments that remain, so that nothing is lost." The disciples obeyed him, collecting the surplus, filling 12 baskets with the leftover bread and fish. Eli's breath caught in his throat, they were left with more than they had started. A gentle breeze rustled the leaves overhead as twilight draped the sky in hues of orange and purple. Eli, still caught in the swell of the moment, turned to Jesus as he witnessed him tenderly ministering to the people, healing their sick and teaching them the way of love. "Who is this man?" Eli pondered, his heart racing with every heartbeat, a rhythm that matched the pulse of something far greater unfolding before him. Soon, the multitude began to disperse, but Eli remained, compelled by an unseen force drawing him near. He approached Jesus, the evening glow illuminating the compassionate lines of his face. "Master," Eli whispered, finding words in the quiet corners of his spirit, "how did you do this?" "The bread, the fish, they multiplied, and all were fed." Jesus knelt before him, eyes alive with mystery and warmth. "Eli, do you not know? It is not the bread or the fish that nourishes the soul, but the faith that ignites the heart." His voice was as soothing as the gentle lapping waves of the Sea of Galilee. "What you have seen today is but a shadow of what the Father can accomplish through those who willingly yield their hearts." Overwhelmed, Eli pondered deeply, his childlike faith blossoming into understanding. He had given his all, and in return, he received glimpses of divine realities and boundless grace. Jesus' words rang in him like the sweetest melody, promising something beyond this very moment, a journey yet to unfold. As darkness embraced the land, Eli's thoughts strayed to the stories of his ancestors, those who had walked with God, whose faith had moved mountains. The stirring of his spirit urged him to arise, to walk alongside the risen path of faith. He knew this was not just an encounter but the call to a greater purpose, one that embraced everyone around him, woven with threads of hope and belonging. Suddenly, as Eli looked hungrily into Jesus' eyes, he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. The night seemed to hold its breath, as if the heavens were waiting, poised upon the precipice of revelation. In a moment that stretched like the infinite ocean, Jesus said, "You will learn to feed others not only with bread but with the very words of life. Do you wish to follow?" A fire ignited within Eli, and without hesitation, he answered, "Yes, Lord. Lead me." In that sacred moment, the seeds of divine destiny were sown in Eli's heart, as the very crossroads of faith beckoned him forth. Would he embark on a journey shaped by purpose, miracles, and the unfolding of God's sovereign plan? The very air seemed electric with divine promise, lingering like a soft whisper on a summer's breeze, leaving Eli breathless and yearning for more, for the adventure had only just begun. As the stars adorned the night sky, Eli felt a celestial weight upon his heart, a gravitational pull towards the one who had illuminated his spirit. He took a step back, glancing at the scattered remnants of the meal baskets filled with broken bread and pieces of fish that whispered of abundance and grace. Each crumb bore witness to the miracle of their master, reminding him of the profound truth spoken earlier. With newfound courage, Eli moved closer, joining the circle of intrigued disciples. Their faces glowed with fervor as they recounted their own experiences of the day, eyes wide with awe. "I saw him heal the blind," one exclaimed. "He spoke with authority. Even the waves obey him." Another chimed in, filled with reverence. Curiosity surged within Eli as Jesus began to speak to the gathered crowd once more. "Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom," he proclaimed, his voice carrying over the encroaching stillness of the night. The hearts of those around Eli quickened, and they leaned in closer, eager to hang on to every word that flowed from his lips like honey. "Store up treasures not upon the earth," Jesus continued, eyes glistening with divine insight, "but in heaven, where neither moth nor rust can destroy." Eli's spirit trembled, for he felt the essence of the divine truth weaving itself into his being. "What treasures," he thought, "does the Lord desire me to gather? Surely it is more than mere possessions." In that moment, his gaze shifted from the crowd to the horizon where darkness fell away into the shimmering promise of dawn. The silence enveloping them was thick with anticipation, and Eli sensed in his heart that something extraordinary was about to happen. What was it that the Father wished to reveal through his Son? Just then, as if a sign from heaven, a flurry of movement broke the darkness. The water from the nearby sea stirred violently, as a storm surged unexpectedly in the distance. Fear gripped the hearts of the crowd as the wind howled and the waves began to crash violently against the shore. Eli's heart raced. He had seen enough to know that the Master was not merely a healer of the sick or a provider of bread, he held divine authority over creation itself. Peace. Be still. Jesus commanded as he stepped toward the raging sea. The winds froze, and the waves lowered at his word, leaving the waters smooth as glass. Eli stood transfixed, a sense of awe flooding his heart anew. Here stood the Messiah, not just a prophet but the very Son of God, manifesting dominion over chaos with unparalleled power. Who then is this, that even the wind and the sea obey him? Asked one of the disciples, his voice amazed. Eli echoed the question silently, aware that this revelation pierced deeper than skin. It struck at the very core of his soul. A flicker of wonder sparked within him as he began to grasp the boundless nature of Jesus' identity, envisioning the profound implications of what he had just witnessed. As the crowd erupted into astonished exclamations, Eli felt the longing rise in him to inspire others with the same faith that had transformed his own heart. In that instant, he understood that he had been invited into a story greater than himself. Lord, let me be an instrument of your peace and truth. He silently vowed. And as the bay settled under the power of Jesus' command, a revelation began to form in Eli's heart. A deeper calling loomed just beyond his reach. Would his journey lead him to share the miraculous nature of Christ's love? But just as this thought bloomed, Jesus turned and looked directly at Eli, the illumination of divine purpose shining in his gaze, and whispered, "You have seen, Eli. Now prepare to witness greater things than these." The night air, filled with the aroma of salt and possibility, lingered as the dawn approached, heralding both challenge and promise. Eli felt a stirring within. Was the Father beckoning him into the dawn of a new understanding? What awaited him in the unfolding chapters of Jesus' sovereign plan? As the dawn broke upon the shores of Galilee, the first rays of light kissed the waters, shimmering like gold. Eli stood among the disciples, his heart still pounding with the echoes of the storm's defeat. The air felt charged with expectancy, and he could sense the Spirit's presence enveloping them, guiding their thoughts and stirring their spirits. Jesus, radiant with the light of morning, beckoned them closer. "Come, follow me," he said, his voice steady and inviting. The disciples looked to one another, performing silent exchanges of curiosity and resolve. Eli felt a fire ignite within him, a call that resonated with the depths of his being. They began to walk, their feet tracing the familiar paths of their homeland, yet everything felt transformed. Each step echoed with purpose, reverberating through the very fabric of their hearts. As they walked, Jesus spoke about the kingdom of heaven. "The kingdom is like a mustard seed," he illustrated. "Though it is the smallest of all seeds, when it grows, it is the largest of garden plants." Eli listened intently, the words penetrating through layers of doubt and fear, cultivating faith where once confusion thrived. Yet, questions lingered in his mind. What does this mean for me? He pondered, glancing toward the horizon where the land met the sky. Is my life to be a vessel, a tree bearing fruit for others? Amidst his thoughts, they encountered a mother approaching with urgency, her face flushed with despair. "Master!" she cried out, her voice quaking with desperation. "My daughter lies at home, possessed by an unclean spirit. Please, come and heal her." Hope flickered in her eyes, breaking through the blanket of sorrow. Eli's heart swelled with compassion. Here was a soul in need, much like his own, seeking the touch of Jesus. He observed as the disciples looked hesitantly at one another, uncertain of what unfolding miracle might arise from this encounter. "Do not fear, I will go," Jesus affirmed, his expression steadfast. As they approached the woman's home, Eli felt an energy surge within him, an inexorable pull resonating with the promise of healing. He could hardly contain his anticipation. Upon entering the house, Eli was struck by the darkness that seemed to suffocate the room. The atmosphere felt thick, heavy with anguish. Jesus knelt beside the child, his compassionate gaze piercing through the veil of shadows. "Little girl, I say to you, arise." His command exuded authority, a directive that shattered the kingdom of darkness. In an instant, the child, once tormented, stirred. Life flooded back into her eyes, and she arose, bewildered yet restored. The mother wept with gratitude, her cries blending with the joyous laughter of the healed girl, their praises enveloping the room like incense rising to heaven. "What manner of man is this?" Eli whispered to himself, enthralled by the magnitude of the moment. He felt the cry of his spirit echo as he witnessed the manifestation of God's love and power. As Jesus smiled at the radiant mother and daughter, he turned, directing his gaze upon Eli, whose heart brimmed with faith. "Eli, you have beheld what man cannot produce. This is the mighty hand of God at work." Trembling with reverence, Eli realized a profound truth: within every miracle lies an invitation to participate in the divine narrative. As they left the house, the morning sun seemed to rise brighter, unveiling the glories of God's creation. Yet, Eli wondered, with this new depth of calling, how might he walk in the footprints of the Master, engaging with the lives of those around him? The kingdom had been unveiled in powerful ways, but what further revelations lay hidden before him? What greater things was the Father about to accomplish through those who dared to believe? And thus, Eli's journey into divine mysteries began not just as a witness, but as a faithful participant in the unfolding tapestry of God's sovereign plan. As they departed from the house, the joyous laughter of the healed girl lingered in Eli's heart, weaving a tapestry of hope that contrasted sharply with the shadows they had just dispelled. Jesus turned to them once more, his countenance radiant, revealing the depth of his understanding and compassion. "Behold," he said, "the harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." The disciples gazed around, sensing the weight of his words. Eli felt the intensity of the moment. It was more than a mere statement, it was a clarion call echoing through the ages, drawing them into the urgency of divine purpose. As they journeyed onward, the throng of people began to grow, eagerly pressing in toward the Master, who radiated a light that pierced through their despair. They sought him for healing, for wisdom, and for deliverance. Eli marveled at the sea of faces, each holding their own burdens, much like the untamed weeds that longed for fertile ground. In that moment, Eli grasped the enormity of Jesus' ministry, the urgency of his mission, and the calling that beckoned to them all. Suddenly, a voice rose above the murmur of the crowd. "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." It was a blind man, sitting by the roadside, crying out with desperation that shattered the noise of the crowd. Eli's heart raced as he watched the scene unfold. This man, shunned and ignored, dared to reach out to the Savior. Jesus paused, and a hush fell over the multitude. "What do you want from me?" he asked, not to dismiss the man, but to draw forth the depth of his desire. "Rabboni, I want to see." The earnest plea echoed throughout the air, reverberating with faith and longing. "Your faith has healed you," Jesus declared, and with those simple words, sight returned to the blind man. In that moment, as eyes opened wide with astonished joy, the entire crowd erupted in praise. Eli's breath caught in his throat. He understood now that the power of faith not only brings forth miracles but transforms hearts, igniting a flicker of divine possibility within each spirit. Amid the jubilant shouts and clamor of rejoicing, Eli's gaze met that of the healed man, who now stood fully restored, tears glistening like morning dew. Their eyes locked in recognition, a silent sharing of testimony that transcended words. Eli felt a surge of inspiration, a whisper from deep within his soul urging him this was his calling as well. Then, as the sun reached its zenith, they found themselves at the foot of a hill where Jesus sat down to teach. The disciples gathered around him, their hearts yearning to absorb the words that flowed from his lips like living water. Eli leaned in closer, not wanting to miss even a syllable. "Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven," Jesus proclaimed, the weight of his words settling on them like the gentle breeze that caressed the earth. Eli's heart resonated with truth, realizing that the humble acknowledgement of need opened the door to divine provision. As Jesus continued to impart his sacred wisdom, Eli contemplated the mysteries of life intertwined with the purpose of God. Each beatitude revealed a layer of heaven, inviting all who would hear to join in the dance of divine grace. In that sacred moment, Eli sensed the unyielding hand of the Almighty orchestrating every gathering, every healing, every teaching. Yet, as he pondered the depth of the moment, a small voice within reminded him of the unanswered questions. What awaited them beyond this hill? What deeper truths lay veiled in the shadows? And as Jesus concluded his message, Eli felt an awakening in his spirit, a call to step further into the mysteries of faith. The echo of the blind man's cry reverberated in his mind, promising that greater things were yet to come through those willing to believe. What divine revelation was the Father preparing to unveil as they journeyed forward? What hidden treasures of faith would they soon discover? Thus, the quest for understanding and purpose began anew, drawing Eli ever closer to the heart of God. As the sun began its descent, casting golden rays over the hillside, a weighty expectation settled among the disciples. Jesus, with serene authority, arose from his place of teaching, beckoning them to follow. Eli, his spirit alight with the echoes of the mountain's promises, shuffled eagerly behind the Master. As they walked, Jesus turned to his followers, speaking words that stirred their souls. Do not be afraid, little flock, for your Father has been pleased to give you the kingdom, he assured them, and the comfort of his voice seeped into their hearts as gentle rain upon thirsty soil. Eli felt his fears fade, replaced by the dawning realization of God's love, a love that embraced the lowly and exalted the humble. Yet, the pressing urgency of the crowd remained palpable, urgency mingling with hope as more approached, drawn by tales of healing and miracles. It was then that Eli's attention was drawn to a woman, stooped beneath the heavy burden of her afflictions, her face a mask of despair. She had suffered for 12 long years, enduring the isolation of her condition as she bled without respite, seeking healing from every physician to no avail. Touch the hem of his garment, whispered an onlooker, faith wrapping around the woman like a cloak. Eli's heart raced as he watched her maneuver through the throng, desperation etched on her brow. With every step, he felt the weight of her struggle. Jesus, the woman murmured, her voice barely above a whisper, if only I may touch his garment, I shall be made whole. Her resolve pierced the air, and in that single moment, Eli witnessed the power of faith desperate to connect with the divine. And then, as the woman reached out, trembling fingers brushed against the fringe of Jesus' robe. Instantly, a surge of life coursed through her, restoring strength and vitality that had long been lost. Eli gasped as he witnessed miracles unravel before his eyes, no longer mere stories, but living proof of faith's transformative power. Jesus stopped his march, turning sharply as if he had felt the weight of a gentle breeze shift. Who touched me? He asked, his eyes scanning the multitude. The disciples exchanged glances, confused by the inquiry amid the pressure of the crowd. Master, the crowds press against you and you ask, who touched me? Peter replied, as if to point out the folly of the question. Yet, Eli, filled with a knowing, sensed the import of this moment. It was me. The woman stepped forth, trembling in newfound grace, her eyes wide with wonder. I touched you. Daughter, be of good cheer, your faith has made you whole, Jesus spoke, his voice tender yet powerful. Go in peace. The crowd fell into a hushed reverence, and Eli found himself swept away in awe, witnessing the purity of faith rewarded in grace. As the woman departed, a ripple of sacred whispers surged through the gathering. Eli's spirit burned with the revelations unfolding. Each miracle proclaimed deeper truths, unveiling the character of God's love, his desire to restore, to heal, and to transform all who would earnestly seek him. Yet, even as joy spread through the crowd, a sudden darkness loomed on the fringes. Some approached with heavy news, do not trouble the teacher further, she is gone. The father of the departed girl clutched his chest in despair, the chill of fear snaking through the gathered disciples. Fear not, believe only, and she will be made whole, Jesus declared, his gaze piercing through the depths of sorrow. Eli felt a surge of anticipation, a tremor of divine promise whispered through the fabric of the air. What power would the Master wield against death itself? What divine confrontation awaited them as they journeyed beyond the veil of grief? The deeper mysteries of faith unfolded like a flower kissed by dawn, urging Eli and all around him to embrace the promise of God's unfathomable grace. Thus, the divine narrative of restoration wove tighter around their lives. The journey continued, revealing a sovereign purpose embedded in the heart of every miracle. What further wonders lay ahead as the Messiah pressed into realms unseen, challenging every shadow and fear? The answers, cloaked in faith, awaited just beyond the horizon. As Jesus approached the house of Jairus, the father of the deceased girl, a solemn weight permeated the air. The mourners thronged in clusters, their voices rising in heartache, yet within Jesus lay the promise of something far greater than sorrow. Eli walked closely behind, his heart beating in sync with the heavy anticipation that hung like a shroud over the crowd. "Do not weep, she is not dead, but asleep," Jesus proclaimed, his voice cutting through the wailing like a beacon of hope. The crowd, swayed by grief and disbelief, erupted in laughter, such mockery cruelly piercing the tender heart of the Master. Yet, Eli felt something shift, an imminent revelation was unfolding. With unwavering grace, Jesus dismissed the mourners, inviting only Peter, James, and John to accompany him. Eli found himself among this inner circle, his spirit electrified with expectancy, a witness to a sacred moment unfolding before their eyes. As they entered the chamber, Jesus approached the still form of the girl, resting as if in tranquil slumber. Her parents wept inconsolably, the agony of loss etched across their faces. But within Jesus burned the unwavering light of divine purpose. "Talitha cumi," he spoke, his voice filled with authority and tenderness, calling forth life with words as gentle as a whisper. "Little girl, I say to you, arise." In that moment, Eli's heart raced as he beheld the miracle that would reshape destinies. The girl's eyelids fluttered open, revealing a light long thought extinguished. With a gasp, she sat up, looking around in bewilderment, life flooding back into her veins. Witnessing such a splendid act of power redefined Eli's understanding of faith. Here stood the Lord of life itself, declaring victory over death, his very voice echoing with promises rooted in eternity. Eli felt a tear trace down his cheek, the overwhelming nature of compassion mingling with joy. Her parents, struck dumb by the wonder, were enveloped in astonishment, their tears now those of sheer exhilaration. Eli could hardly contain his own joy, joining the laughter that erupted in the room as the once lifeless girl sprang to life, bright-eyed and full of spirit. "Give her something to eat," Jesus instructed, a practical care woven into his miraculous impartation. Eli couldn't help but think of the simple yet profound nature of this command. The surge of divine life did not merely restore her to health but called forth wholeness, a life replete with love, sustenance, and community. As the girl was nourished, Eli pondered the deeper significance of these events. What did it mean to walk in resurrection power? What depths of faith were plumbed to witness such extraordinary acts? A wave of reflection washed over him, urging him to seek the profound mysteries hidden within God's grace. And then, even amid their rejoicing, a sudden hush fell. Far off, Jesus turned his gaze to the horizon, as if perceiving something yet unseen. The crowd, still rejoicing, was oblivious to the weighty drama unfolding, an unseen battle waged between light and darkness just beyond their reach. Eli sensed the urgency, a divine expectation threading through the air, weaving together the lives of all present. What plan lay beyond this miracle? What shadows lingered that were yet to be confronted? The disciples' hearts began to thrum with questions, as if the very fabric of their faith was stretching into realms they had yet to fathom. An awe-stricken silence settled within, paving the way for divine revelation. In that pivotal moment, Eli grasped the gravity of following the Master, the implications of embracing the full breadth of faith amidst miracles. The wonders he had witnessed were but glimpses of a greater narrative stretching forward to an eternal purpose. Thus, as Eli emerged from the house, he registered the unrest looming over the horizon. What would unfold next, and how would faith be tested anew in the face of impending trials? The answer rested in the heart of the Father, shrouded in mystery and sovereign plan awaiting discovery through every echo of belief. As the joyous laughter echoed through the house, the light of the girl's newfound life illuminated the hearts of all present. Yet, Eli felt a heaviness in the air, a divine tension that gripped his spirit. The miracle had been astounding, but a deeper purpose loomed, waiting to envelop them all in a greater revelation. Jesus, having brought light to the girl's family, turned his gaze once more to the horizon. It was as if his heart was attuned to a melody of matters unseen, a crescendo drawing nearer. Eli's anticipation mounted, each heartbeat thrumming with the realization that this was but a moment in a larger symphony of divine action. "Who is this, who even commands the dead to rise?" Peter whispered, awestruck as he regained his composure. "Truly, he is the Son of the Most High," James replied, his voice steady, yet full of wonder. "But what burden does he carry, that none of us can perceive?" As if sensing the disciples' contemplations, Jesus turned to them, his expression earnest. "You have seen what the Father can do through me. But do not forget that the path ahead is fraught with trials," he spoke, instilling both a warning and encouragement. Gathering the crowd outside, he addressed them, "The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few." His words resonated in the hearts of the witnesses, drawing them into a shared mission that transcended mere personal joy, beckoning them toward service and sacrifice. Eli stepped forward, emboldened by the miracle wrought before him. "Master, teach us to walk in faith as you do." His plea reverberated, echoing the longing of countless hearts for meaning and purpose. "Follow me," Jesus replied, his eyes shining with compassion as he looked at Eli. "Yet, be prepared, for to walk in faith is to embrace the cross that stands before you." An unsettling silence enveloped the group, the weight of his words setting deeper than any burden they had known. They sensed the cost of discipleship, a call to confront shadows that lurked not just in darkness, but within their very souls. As they left the house, Eli caught sight of a woman striding through the throng, despair etched across her face, her touch trailing a torn robe. The air thickened with desperation. Eli realized she was the woman who had long suffered from a bleeding ailment, whom he had heard spoke of faith that reached beyond mere physical boundaries. She had been seeking healing for years. Approaching Jesus, she dared to touch the fringe of his garment. The moment her fingers brushed the cloth, power surged from him, enveloping her in a radiant light. "Daughter," Jesus proclaimed, his voice reverberating with authority and grace, "your faith has made you well, go in peace and be healed of your disease." A murmur traveled through the crowd, a swell of astonishment, wonder, and envy. Eli felt the shift in the atmosphere, a palpable reminder that faith unleashes the omnipotent will of God. Yet mingled with this atmosphere of hope was a foreboding that settled over Eli, a portent of the trials ahead. What awaited them as they ventured further into the ministry? As they continued on their journey, a messenger hurried toward Jairus, his face pale and troubled. "Your daughter is dead, do not trouble the teacher any longer," he announced, the finality of his words slicing through the triumph like a sword. Eli's heart plummeted. Jesus turned with unflinching resolve, his eyes locked onto Jairus, speaking in tones that wielded both comfort and command. "Do not fear, only believe, and she will be made well." And at that moment, Eli knew they stood on the precipice of greater wonders and more profound revelations of God's purpose, one that would stretch mortal understanding into the realms of the eternal. In silence, they moved forward, propelled by a faith that felt as thin as gossamer yet as solid as the promises of God. What divine tapestry was being woven through their unfolding story, and how would God's sovereignty reveal itself in the face of despair? Eli's breath quickened with each step. Answers lay just beyond the horizon, concealed within the grandeur of God's sovereign plan. They journeyed through the throng, the weight of despair clinging to Jairus like a wet cloak. Jesus, sensing the rising tide of sorrow, pressed forward with an assurance that seemed to part the heavy clouds of doubt. Even the air felt charged as if the divine presence were tangible, enveloping them in a cloak of expectancy. Eli, walking closely, dared to glance at the faces surrounding them. What he saw filled him with urgency and awe, people newly restored in spirit, yet many still trapped in shadows of fear. They clung to whispers of hope, but the news of the girl's death seemed to hang over them like a shroud, cast by the unrelenting darkness of mortality. In this urgent moment, Eli's heart wrestled between faith and the stark reality of loss. As they approached Jairus' home, mourners had already gathered, their voices woven together in a lament that echoed through the streets. The atmosphere thickened, heavy with sorrow that seemed to echo off the very walls. Eli sensed in his spirit a clash between the world's despair and the promise of eternal hope. Jesus entered the house, unfazed by the weeping crowd. "Do not weep, she is not dead but sleeping," he proclaimed, his voice ringing clear and strong. Shockwaves of disbelief rippled through the mourners, causing them to scoff at his words. Eli felt a slip of uncertainty dance across his heart. Yet, he remained anchored in the unmistakable authority of Jesus' presence. There, in the dim light of the room overshadowed by grief, Jesus invited only his closest disciples, Peter, John, and James, along with the parents, into the girl's chamber. "The child is not lost," he stated with unyielding confidence. "She will rise again." Eli hesitated at the doorway, the atmosphere swirling with divine tension. Was this the moment they had all longed for, the fulfillment of sacred promises whispered through the ages? He yearned for the revelation, but dread lingered at the edge, pressing against him like a fortress. With a gentle hand, Jesus took the girl's cold palm into his own, the sacred moment wrapping them in divine intimacy. "Talitha cumi," he commanded, his voice imbued with authority that spoke to the depths of the girl's very spirit. "Little girl, I say to you, arise." In that instant, life surged back into her limbs, warmth enveloping her like a sanctified mantle. Her eyes fluttered back open, revealing a sparkling vista of existence beyond the grave. Eli gasped, caught between the realms of doubt and belief, as the miraculous unfolded before him. The echoes of her first breath mingled with the astonished voices of her parents, who rushed to embrace their child. In the flash of divine transformation, Eli witnessed not just the revival of a mortal life, but the piercing revelation of God's sovereign plan. Hope incarnate danced in front of him, transcending the pain of mortal sorrow. Yet within his spirit, a deep yearning remained, a question whose answer lay entwined within their unfolding journey. Jesus turned, fixing his gaze upon Eli, a knowing smile gracing his lips. "This day shows you what is possible for those who believe, but even greater things await. For the works of the Father are not yet completed." The air crackled with divine suspense, invigorating Eli's faith but burdening his heart with mystifying depth. What greater purpose lay in the heart of this miracle? As the day's light began to fade and joy erupted around him, Eli contemplated the mysteries still concealed. The pages of a larger narrative were being penned, and their roles in God's sovereign story were only beginning to unfold. In that holy moment, Eli realized they were just on the verge of something far grander than they could imagine. What further revelations would this journey bring, and how would it challenge their understanding of life, death, and the kingdom of God? As the echoes of joyful cries faded at Jairus' home, Eli stood beneath a vibrant tapestry of sunset, where hues of orange and purple kissed the sky. The miracle of the girl's awakening had sewn a deep thread of belief into the fabric of his heart, yet the tender weight of the day's events pressed upon him like a solemn promise. Jesus turned to the gathered crowd, a profound stillness blanketing the air. "You have witnessed acts of divine authority and healing," he proclaimed, his voice ringing with unwavering truth. "Yet, the journey of faith is only beginning. The kingdom of God is not merely about miracles, it demands unwavering discipleship and profound love." Eli felt a wave of resolve surge within him. These words ignited a yearning that transcended wonder. He sensed a call to something greater, an invitation into a weighty purpose embodied in the earthly ministry of Christ. "Lord," Eli murmured, almost to himself, "teach me to follow you, not just in times of glory, but in bearing the burdens of love." With every step they took back into the bustling village, Eli observed the eyes of those around him, each filled with longing, fear, and flickering hope. Faces marked with tales of hardship and stories yearning to be told. Is not every eye a story waiting for life? He pondered, feeling the gentle nudge of the Spirit guiding him deeper into divine understanding. Days turned into weeks as Eli walked closely with Jesus. Each moment was steeped with lessons, every interaction a form of training for the battles that lay ahead. Villagers flocked to hear the teacher's words, and Eli marveled at the way lives transformed with the mere utterance of his name, healing floods, forgiveness reigns, and love breaking the hardest of hearts. But amidst this revival, shadows waited to challenge their faith. One fateful day, while Jesus taught beside the Sea of Galilee, emissaries from Jerusalem approached with an expression of scorn. "Why do your disciples not wash their hands before they eat?" they asked, draped in self-righteousness, mocking the customs of the elders. Eli held his breath, anticipating a conflict, a test of faith both for the teacher and those who followed him with childlike abandon. Jesus looked upon them with an unwavering gaze, dismissing their challenges as hollow. "It is not what goes into a person that defiles them," he declared, "but what comes out of the heart." His words sliced straight to the core, exposing the very nature of true spirituality, a matter of the heart, overflowing in love toward God and neighbor. Eli felt the truth vibrate within him, resonating with a depth that shook away superficial traditions. He understood now that faith was not a ritual, it was a life lived in active love. The divine call extended beyond mere observances into the expanse of genuine relationship. Yet the shadows loomed larger. The disciples began to whisper of rising opposition. The Pharisees plotted, hearts hardened by jealousy and fear. Eli witnessed their animosity grow, and a question lingered in his heart: would they stand firm when the winds of discord rocked their very foundations? Then came the fateful day when Jesus, deeply troubled by the tension in the air, took Eli and the others aside. "A storm is brewing," he warned. "But take heart, I have overcome the world. You will be tested, and your faith will be challenged. Do not falter, for I will be with you until the end of the age." Eli felt the weight of those words. A resolve firmed within him as he grasped the profound truth of Jesus' promise. The tension birthed opportunities for unwavering love, and with each trial, God's glory could be revealed in brighter hues. As they continued their journey, Eli became steadfastly aware of the divine encounters that lay ahead. From forgiving sins to casting out demons, and even inviting the outcasts into the folds of love, every moment was laden with grace. Then, approaching Jerusalem, they sensed impending trials closer than ever. As Jesus prayed, he foresaw the pain awaiting him, the weight of the world's sin pressing down like an anchor. His anguish became palpable, a burden Eli wanted to share yet felt inept to carry. "Lord," Eli implored softly, "will you still be with us when darkness descends?" With eyes glistening with compassion, Jesus replied, "Through every shadow, Eli, those who follow will be light. Remember the ways I have shown you. Love will always be the answer, for it is patient and kind. It does not delight in evil, but rejoices in truth." Eli clung to those words tightly, feeling the raw power of love as a shield against doubt. This was not just a call for him to witness miracles, it was a divine call to active participation, the essence of a living faith. As they entered the city, the festive sounds of Passover surrounded them. Eli observed the people eager for a king, a liberator. They waved palms, shouting praises. "Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord." Yet, Eli sensed a deeper reality unfolding, one that would reshape everything they had ever believed about the Messiah. Standing amidst the throng, Eli felt the tugging of destiny. Every heart treasured hope, yet beneath the joy lay complacency and expectation unshaped by the truth of what was to come. Eli found himself breathing in the moment, surrendering to the undeniable rhythm of God's sovereign plan unfolding in all its fullness. As the shadows of betrayal threatened to envelop the Last Supper, Eli surrendered to the growing understanding that the beauty of faith was forged in trials. The path to resurrection always passed through Gethsemane. The heart of God beckoned him forth, instilling purpose beyond understanding. And with each step, "I choose faith," Eli resolved, ready to embrace whatever came next in the extraordinary tapestry of God's unfolding story. And now, dear friends, the moment is upon each listener. Will you step into the sacred journey of the heart? Subscribe immediately to our channel to stay connected to God's Word that brings transformation. Like this video now to help spread God's message through the algorithm, impacting more lives with His truth. Comment below, sharing your spiritual reflections on this miraculous narrative. Let us celebrate together how God speaks through His stories. And don't wait even one more second. Share this powerful testimony with at least 5 friends who need to know God's love. In unity, we can bring light into the world and ignite the hearts of many for Christ.